Hey everyone, welcome back to my National Counselor Exam Study vlog. Let's get back into it. A career counselor believes that one's environment and one's biology are both influential in determining a person's career choice and performance only when considered in the context of one's culture. Which developmental theorist would this counselor be most likely to agree with? And the answer is Bronfenbrenner. He is considered a cultural context theorist and believes that culture is very important in development and is one of the distinguishing features of humans. Note this question only asks for a developmental theorist, even though it is in a career counseling setting. Bronfenbrenner is not a career theorist. You are working as a group counselor. You prefer a laissez-faire leadership style. After a few sessions, the group starts exhibiting tension and dissent. What should you do? Become more directive. Although a laissez-faire leader might prefer the group to work out the problems themselves, tension and dissent would require the leader to take on a more directive role in order to manage the overall group process. You are working as a family therapist and are referred a new family as a client. The family includes 2 parents, 2 sons, and 1 daughter. When the referral is made, you learn that incest between the father and daughter is the primary issue for this family. Whom should you include in therapy? And the answer is the mother, father, and all 3 children. This one might depend on your state. Often, counselors refer to Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development when considering the developmental progress of clients. Which of the following describes the frame of Erikson's model? The 8 stages occur throughout a person's lifespan. Program evaluations are used in most large educational, governmental, and social programs. Which statement best explains why program evaluations are necessary? A. Program evals are the only method available for accurately assessing program effectiveness. B. Program evals make more sense to the general public than confusing statistical data. C. Without program evals, programs cannot meet their goals. Or D. Program evals help maintain accountability standards. And the answer is D. Program evals help maintain accountability standards. A career counseling client reports that he performs best at work in the presence of other people. When he is alone, he doesn't perform as well. What is he experiencing? And the answer is social facilitation. You are seeing a family in counseling for the first time. It comes to your attention that there is a history of mental disorders in the family. You determine that you need to take a family history. What should you do? The answer is schedule a session as early as possible for taking a family history. The counseling department at a university is interested in measuring the relationship between the GRE scores of students entering the program and the student's GPA upon graduation. They discover that the correlation between the 2 measures is 0.60. What is the amount of variability between GPA and GRE scores? And the answer is 0.36. Shared variability, or the amount of variability shared between 2 variables, is equal to the square of the correlation coefficient of the variables, or R squared. So 0.6 squared is 0.36. In the context of professional licensure for counselors, reciprocity refers to a licensing agency accepting the licensing standards of another agency as sufficient for its own professional counselors. In a group therapy setting, the group counselor uses catharsis to promote members' resolutions of unconscious conflict and the acquisition of improved management skills. The group described is most likely A. A counseling group, B. A psychotherapy group, C. A personal growth group, or D. A self-help group. And the answer is a psychotherapy group. A counselor believes that both biology and environment are important in determining a person's development and functioning. The counselor believes that culture and environment act together with each other to impact the individual. The counselor would most likely agree with the views of which of the following theorists? Environmental learning theory, biological maturation theory, interactional theory, or cultural context theory? And the answer is interactional theory. The key words are acts together. One group member remarks to another group member, "I enjoyed watching you interact today. You taught me a lot of great techniques." This is an example of A, hope, B, information, C, universality, or D, imitation. And the answer is information. The group member has only received information from the other group member. It would be imitation only if the one group member actually performs the techniques. A career counselor gives all of her new clients a measure of career maturity that scores people on a 100-point scale from 1 to 100. After collecting data on over 100 clients, she notices that the scores are normally distributed. The mean score is 65, indicating a level of moderate career maturity. The standard deviation of the scores is 10. Based on this information, she would expect that 68% of the scores would be between 55 and 75. 68% of the scores would be one standard deviation above and one standard deviation below. During which of Piaget's stages would a child be most likely to master the skill of conservation? And the answer is the concrete operational stage. Conservation refers to the realization that the quantity of something does not change if its form changes and nothing has been added or removed. A counselor in a social services agency learns that one of her colleagues, who is not a certified counselor, is behaving unethically. The counselor should, according to the NBCC Code of Ethics, the certified counselor must take action to attempt to rectify this situation. As a counselor, you see assessments results reported in terms of both percentile ranks and Z-scores. What do these two methods of score interpretation have in common? They both facilitate norm-referenced interpretation of test performance. Which of the following intrapersonal relationships does a Gestalt therapist emphasize? A, conscious, unconscious. B, dynamic, static. C, self-concept, reality. Or D, figure and ground. And the answer is figure and ground. How a person is aware of themselves in relation to the surrounding situation. Research on gay and lesbian parents indicates A, their children are maladjusted. B, they are as dedicated to and effective at child rearing as are heterosexual parents. C, they are less dedicated to child rearing than heterosexual parents. Or D, their children are parented harshly and inconsistently. And the answer is B. There is very little evidence to support that homosexual couples are poor parents. When gays and lesbians become parents, they generally are just as effective and caring as are heterosexual couples who become parents. In what ways do stereotypes distort reality? A. Stereotypes exaggerate the differences that exist between groups. B. Stereotypes exaggerate the differences that exist within groups. C. Stereotypes produce many differing perceptions by many people. Or D. Stereotypes demonstrate that members of a group can be different. And the answer is A. The key word here is distort. As you attempt to answer this question, you need to think about how stereotypes distort the truth in negative ways. The most reasonable answer is that stereotypes distort one's ideas about how one group is so different from another group. In reality, the differences between groups are not as extreme as stereotypes make them out to be. People of different cultures are not so different from people from another culture. It has been found that people are people and that we are more alike than dissimilar. Jennifer has to choose between spending the evening at home with her parents or spending the evening babysitting her younger sister. Jennifer does not like either of these choices. This situation describes an A. Approach avoidance conflict. B. Avoidance conflict. C. Approach conflict. Or D. Avoidance vector. And the answer is B. The best way to look at this question is to look at the choices Jennifer is given and her interpretation of these choices. Since Jennifer doesn't like either of these choices, this would be an avoidance conflict. It is simply picking the lesser of two evils. In an approach conflict, a person likes both choices and has to pick the best of the best. In an approach avoidance conflict, an individual both likes and dislikes a choice. Connie tells each of her clients that the best way she can help them is to attempt to look at the world from the client's point of view. This counselor is taking the blank perspective. A. Etic. B. Alloplastic. C. Emic. Or D. Autoplastic. And the answer is C. From a multicultural perspective, an emic viewpoint considers that an individual's culture matters. On the other hand, an etic view considers that people are people no matter where they come from or what their cultural background is. You might think about this distinction as emic equals culture matters and etic equals total world. The distinction between autoplastic and alloplastic is that the former believes in the efficacy of changes taking place within the individual, while the latter believes in making changes in the environment. Think about it this way. When you drive an automobile, you are the operator. You are in charge. Working with individuals from different cultures requires that the counselor A. Have sensitivity to the needs of the individuals. B. Make a referral to another counselor. C. Have knowledge about the different cultures. Or D. Both A and C. And the answer is D. It is not necessary that a counselor refer a client from another culture to another counselor. What is important is that the counselor demonstrates sensitivity to the needs of that client and has some knowledge about other cultures. A high standard of counseling practice when working with diverse populations involves all of the following except A. Treating all clients the same way. B. Acknowledging and confronting their own biases and prejudices. C. Adapting one's knowledge and skills to meet the client's needs. Or D. Educating oneself as completely as possible regarding the client's cultural context. And the answer is A. The answer is pretty straightforward when you consider the other choices. The most appropriate standard of care for a counselor who works with multicultural clients is to treat each client individually. When working with individuals from different cultures, the effective counselor may not A. Use language similar to the client's. B. Maintain good eye contact at all times. C. Be cognizant of the context. Or D. Honor religious beliefs. And the answer is B. This question could trip you up if you're not aware of the cultural differences regarding eye contact. Murray is a bright student, but he procrastinates. He puts off writing term papers and gets incompletes, which eventually become Fs. Murray's therapist helps him establish small, specific goals rather than vague, long-range goals. The therapist also asks Murray to keep a diary of how he is spending his time when he is avoiding his studies. The method used to help Murray deal with his problem is blank therapy. A. Psychodynamic. B. Behavioral. C. Gestalt. Or D. Existential. And the answer is B. When techniques involve setting goals or keeping a diary, you can automatically think that the therapy is behavioral. Most other therapies do not involve keeping track of behaviors or setting specific goals. The social learning perspective is to the psychodynamic perspective as blank are to blank. A. As bodily events are to social and cultural forces. B, as social and cultural forces are to bodily events. C, as environmental conditions are to unconscious dynamics. Or D, as unconscious dynamics are to environmental conditions. And the answer is C. Whenever psychoanalysis or psychodynamics is mentioned, you should automatically think of unconscious processes, as this is the hallmark of such an approach. Of course, the social learning perspective deals with social aspects, but more intently, it deals with environmental conditions. Bodily events or bodily functions would be more aligned with a biological approach of some sort. Remember that learning involves interacting with the environment. The process of saying freely whatever comes to mind in connection with dreams, memories, fantasies, or conflicts in the course of a psychodynamic therapy session is referred to as A, systematic desensitization, B, flooding, C, free association, or D, exposure treatment. And the answer is C. One way you can think of free association is as speaking freely about whatever comes to mind. Free association is a technique used by psychoanalysts and psychodynamic therapists. Which of the following is not a behavioral therapy? A, flooding, B, skills training, C, exposure, or D, unconditional positive regard? And the answer is D. The only technique that is not behavioral is unconditional positive regard, which is client-centered or Rogerian. The primary goal of blank therapy is to find meaning in life. A, rational emotive, B, reality, C, existential, or D, transactional analysis. And the answer is C. One way to think about the existential perspective is in terms of the human condition and what it means to be human, or in other words, what the meaning of life is. When it comes to rational emotive therapy, think about the word rational and then attribute that to helping individuals move from irrational to rational thoughts. A good way to think about reality therapy is to focus on helping individuals formulate realistic plans for improvement. Transactional analysis involves looking at individuals' transactions as they go throughout their life scripts. Which of the following pairings of problem and the most successful therapy for that problem is incorrect? A, childhood behavior problems and existential therapy. B, specific phobias and systematic desensitization. C, depression and rational emotive therapy. Or D, panic disorder and behavior therapy. And the answer is A, which was childhood behavior problems and existential therapy together. The bond of confidence and mutual understanding established between therapist and client is called the A, therapeutic window, B, therapeutic alliance, C, clubhouse model, or D, window of opportunity. And the answer is B, therapeutic alliance. An apparent treatment success that is due to the patient's expectation or hopes rather than the treatment itself is called A, the placebo effect, B, the nocebo effect, C, the therapeutic window, or D, an empirically validated treatment. And the answer is A, the placebo effect. In blank therapy, the therapist uses logical arguments to challenge a client's unrealistic beliefs or expectations. A, client-centered, B, rational emotive behavior, C, existential, or D, aversive conditioning. And the answer is B, in rational emotive therapy, a client's irrational beliefs are challenged. Systematic desensitization and flooding are blank therapies. A, behavioral, B, psychodynamic, C, reality, or D, Adlerian. And the answer is A, behavioral. Which of the following types of psychotherapists would be most likely to use free association and transference? A. Rational emotive behavior therapists. B. Behavior therapists. C. Psychodynamic therapists. Or D. Client-centered therapists. And the answer is C. Psychodynamic therapists. These techniques belong to which theory? Free association, dream analysis, interpretation of transference. The answer is psychodynamic. These techniques belong to which theory? Emphasizing client strengths, examination of client's memories, focusing on interpretation, spitting in the client's soup. The answer is Adleran. These techniques belong to which theory? Role-playing, role modeling, defining limits, helping the client make a plan. The answer is reality therapy. All right, everybody, I'm finished with that set of flashcards. Do me a huge favor and comment below if there were any that were super tricky. And also let me know in the comments how you did. Good luck on the National Counselor exam.